Good morning and welcome to my hobby table once again. Today is going to be the first part of maybe a very short video series on this particular engine that I've got on my table here. Now, this engine actually just came to me a few days ago in a box from a friend of mine, new friend of mine, Adam. And it was that mystery box, the very last mystery box video that I put out, and this was one of the engines that was in there, and it really piqued my interest because I'd never seen one of these before nor held one, and it is a Ross engine. And I've seen Ross engines that were the small, I've had the small twin Ross 60 once or twice before. They weren't it wasn't my engine, it was somebody else's. But this is the first single cylinder Ross that I've ever seen. So I was trying to identify this Ross, and I pulled out this book that I have, the American Model Engine Encyclopedia, Volume 1 by Tim Daniels. This is 1911 to 1975, and my Volume 2 book like this actually said refer to Volume 1. So thankfully, the man that gave these books to me, he didn't write his name in this one, and I don't recall his name, but he gave me these books many years ago, probably a decade ago, and I used them quite frequently. So I identified this Ross engine here under the Ross. So you've got a Ross Custom 61, which is number 13 here. Let me flip this like this, put it up here a little closer. And then you've got a Ross Custom 91, and then here at the bottom, and if you look at this one right here, talking about item number, or image number 15, the Ross Black Demon 61. It says here, 1974, identical to the Custom 61, number 13, but now black, anodized all over. So the Custom number 13, Ross Custom 61, 1974, says similar to Ross Power 61, but with black anodized head, black cover, and drive washer, Ross cast on the left side of the case. So this doesn't tell me much about this Black Demon engine. It just basically says that all they did was color it or anodize it, and it's the same engine. So I think that's rather interesting that I know at least exactly what this engine is. So this engine was completely locked up, and if you recall from that video, I had shown the rear cover of this, and I was like, oh my god, what the heck happened here? The screws are missing or whatever. Well, obviously the screws weren't missing, but what had happened was, or what somebody did was, for whatever reason, I have no idea why anybody in the world would ever do this, they filled those screw heads with JB Weld. So what I did was, zoom in, I took my Dremel out with just a sanding drum on it, and just very lightly sanded that JB Weld off to expose the fact that these are, in fact, whether they're stock or not, I don't know, cross-point screws holding this rear cover on. Now, the head doesn't have cross-point screws, so I don't know if those are stock or not. Either way, before I can get this engine, I could probably run this engine as it is. It was totally locked up. Let me go ahead and zoom back out here. But right now I've got it. I've got it so it turns over. And it was really locked up. And if you see, it just puked out a whole bunch of oil here. It's because what I did with this was I just took the entire engine and just dropped it in my container of Marvel Mystery Oil, and I let it sit in there for a good long while. I don't know, a good long while, maybe an hour or two, and then I thought I dried it all out, thought I emptied it all out, but apparently there's still a lot of oil in there. So I've just heated this up tremendously, and it's still rather warm. But back to this. So it's like, okay, I've got cross-point screws here, and they're filled with JB Weld. What the hell am I going to do now? So I went to my Dremel kit to see if I had anything, you know, an engraving tool, and I didn't have anything. So I just went to Lowe's, and I got this, which is a diamond wheel point engraver, 5/64ths, and I'm hoping that's going to be small enough for me just to very gently try to grind out that JB Weld and preserve that cross point, so then I can remove those screws and or then probably most likely replace them with something different, obviously, because what I'd like to do is if I'm going to run this thing, it might run fine as it is now, but I would obviously, wow, there's still a lot of oil coming out of this thing. I would like to replace the bearings in it and get it in tip-top shape. Now this engine did come, it looks like it came stock with a Perry carb, so this is probably the stock carburetor. And I had this freed up, and it still needs some more work because it's pretty stiff. But at least it's turning over now, or it's opening and closing. So anyway, that's going to be the next one of my next projects. The question I'm going to have here is, how do I fixture this thing in such a way that I can hold it at a good angle firmly, so that I can very carefully, with my head magnifier on, go in here and just very gently grind these things out in kind of like the shape of a, you know, how it goes in a screw, to try to get in there and maximize my ability to get those screws out. I don't want to have to go the easy out route. I just would prefer not to do that, so I'm going to attempt this first, and if I screw up, well, then we may have to go and do some drilling out. I prefer not to do that, but I might have to. But anyway, so that is the first video of this. Who knows how long this video series might be. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, obviously, and this is the exhaust that came on the engine. Whether this is stock or not, I don't know. I mean, it fits perfectly, but it's one of those things, kind of like OS. They came out with the LA series, and the engine was a color, and then the exhaust was not. So I'm sure this is probably the stock exhaust. It doesn't have any kind of annotations on there, and it kind of is like a Simcoe exhaust where it's hollow. So maybe this is actually just a Simcoe exhaust that happens to fit this. I don't know. And of course, this book doesn't tell me anything more about these engines than what I just told you either. So anyway, I don't know how many parts are going to be in this series. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to get around to doing this. Obviously, I've gone this far. I'm chomping at the bit, but I've got a lot of customer engines in here that need to get processed. So this might end up having to wait a little bit, but at least I got it turning over, and it has compression. Very good compression. So this is a ringed engine. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that ring in there, obviously. And when I'm looking at the side of the piston, which I don't know if you're going to get an angle to see in there or not, I don't see a whole lot of carbon. I don't see a lot of blackness. So obviously I can probably just pop the head off and look at the top of the piston. But hey, this looks pretty promising. I was at least glad to figure out that there are screws holding it on, that I might have a way to get them out. And now that it's turning over and freed up, and now I just have to clean up all this oil that came out of this engine.